Joe Biden's crucial bid to prove he's fit for the presidency starts with a couple of major missteps. Christopher Luxon's big day out in Washington, a helping hand for Ukraine and a swing at China. Ball buying, how we can prove that rugby's popularity peaked here around a decade ago. And later, the online bromance brought to the big screen in a Marvel mashup.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin.
No, my Haidamai, welcome to 3 News. Joe Biden's big day started by introducing Ukraine's President Zelensky with the name of his enemy, President Putin. But that's not all. The president's high-stakes solo media conference to prove his competency provided another awkward naming gaffe. Here's US correspondent Mitch McCann.
Walking on stage tonight, Joe Biden was a president under immense pressure. Would he stand up and fight, or would he stand down and leave Trump for someone else? Not a chance, he said.
The consideration is that I think I'm the most qualified person to run for president. I beat him once, and I will beat him again.
But before the solo press conference even began, President Biden fell victim to the greatest of gaffes. At the closing ceremony of the event, he had told the American people to judge him on his NATO summit.
And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
Introducing the man who has suffered 867 days of brutal war at the hands of Russian President Vladimir Putin as President Putin.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. You're going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky.
Zelensky and Biden laughed it off.
Mr. President,
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
But the timing couldn't be worse. Biden's fitness as a presidential candidate has been under intense scrutiny since his calamitous performance in the CNN presidential debate 2 weeks ago.
I just got to pace myself a little more. Pace myself.
At least 20 Democrats have now called for a new nominee, but Joe Biden is adamant he is still the man for the job.
Tomorrow, if all of a sudden I show up at the convention, everybody says we want somebody else, that's the democratic process. It's not going to happen.
The president was asked if he would step aside for his vice president if data showed that Kamala Harris could do better against Donald Trump.
No, unless they came back and said, there's no way you can win. Me. No one's saying that.
Joe Biden outlined the medical examinations he's undertaken, neurological exams to prove his mental acuity, and he says he's been given the tick by the doctors as he defended his age.
The only thing age does is help you with, it creates a little bit of wisdom if you pay attention.
This doesn't sound like a man that's thinking about getting out.
You know, he looked like a different person compared to the debate 2 weeks ago. But the bar was set, pretty low.
For the most part, the president was able to alleviate some fears in this room.
This is not about one press conference, one debate, one speech. This is about the presidency of the United States.
The 81-year-old fired up with a zinger against his opponent, former President Donald Trump.
My schedule has been full bore. I've done, where's Trump been? Riding around in his golf cart, filling out his scorecard before he hits the ball? I mean, look, he's done virtually nothing.
While a lot of his press conference was centered around his political future, the president navigated foreign and domestic policy questions with energy.
More children are killed by a bullet than any other cause of death. The United States of America. What the hell are we doing?
Though it didn't come without a hitch. The president stumbled out of the starting blocks on the first question, referring to his running mate Kamala Harris as his opponent Donald Trump.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
Trump immediately pounced, posting a clip to his Truth Social saying, "Great job, Joe."
How do you truly bat that criticism from tonight?
Listen to him.
This concludes tonight's press conference.
A defiant Biden remains in the fight for now.
Mitch is with us now from New York. Kia ora, Mitch. Surely these gaffes are not good for the president's re-election campaign.
Yeah, good evening. Kia ora to you, Sam. Not good at all. It seems like this car crash of a campaign is veering further off the road every single hour for the Democrats. At the moment, as we mentioned, there are up to 20 Democrats in the party publicly calling for Joe Biden or pleading for Joe Biden to step aside. But as we know, he's refusing to do that. But there is someone else in the party who has a lot of influence that is not a senator and is not a congressman. And that is the former President Barack Obama, who is reportedly increasingly concerned that his party will no longer be able to win in November. That's according to reports here in the US. It's also been reported that he knew about that opinion piece from George Clooney in the New York Times. George Clooney asking Joe Biden to step down yesterday. It's been reported Obama knew about that in advance and did not dissuade Clooney from publishing it. So perhaps Barack Obama here is playing some role of influence behind the scenes that we're only just beginning to learn about.
Mitch, what's the sense on the ground in the US? Can he dig his toes in, or does it feel like at this point there's an inevitability that he will have to step aside?
Well, I think up until tonight's press conference, there was that inevitability, Sam, but Joe Biden was just so defiant tonight, it doesn't look like he is going to step down. Look, if he goes to the convention and wins that nomination in August, that is pretty much it. He will be on the ballot come November. There is still a chance that after the convention, he could stand down and the Democratic National Committee could pick someone else. But it's very late, it's close to the election, and it could open the party up to legal problems and legal cases in different states over ballot issues. So it's going to be very problematic for the Democratic Party if Joe Biden tries to stand down after the convention. It's only 39 days away, and the only person benefiting from this entire mess at the moment, Sam, is one person, and that's Donald J. Trump.
Yes, problematic either way at this point. Mitch, thanks so much for joining us. Well, before that high-stakes presidential presser, our Prime Minister wound up the Washington leg of his US trip, praising Joe Biden after several short catch-ups with him. Christopher Luxon saying Biden has a, quote, really nice personality. Luxon also made some big, bold promises to the people and president of Ukraine. Chief political correspondent Tova O'Brien was there.
Christopher Luxon hearing firsthand about the horrors of war from the Ukrainian president and actually considering going far further, travelling to Ukraine himself to see it in person. You would consider going over there?
Yes, I would. And the Prime Minister and I have had regular conversations since I've become Prime Minister as well.
Harking back as far as 2 years ago, Volodymyr Zelensky has been wanting a New Zealand Prime Minister to visit.
It's really important that the leaders of those countries would be able to come to Ukraine and see something with their own eyes, because that would allow them to have a profound understanding of what the needs of the people of Ukraine.
The Ukrainian president was the special guest at a meeting of the NATO partners, New Zealand, Australia, Japan and South Korea, known as the Indo-Pacific Four.
I want to start by just recognising and appreciating you and your leadership. It has been exceptional.
It was also Luxon's chance to take centre stage on the world stage, chairing the meeting, using the platform to call out our biggest trading partner, China, for its support of Russia.
The intensifying military relationship we see between Russia and the DPRK and China's role in supporting the rebuilding of Russia's industrial base demonstrates the indivisibility of security issues between Europe and our part of the world.
Zelensky upping the PM's star power, not long after Luxon topped up Zelensky's firepower, having earlier announced a further $16 million for Ukraine. But just $6 million of that is for military support. And 2 years ago, Zelensky described New Zealand's then $7.5 million in military support like this.
3,000 shells.
3,000 shells?
Yes.
So it's not a lot.
It's not even a day of the war. It's not.
Since then, our military contribution has topped $83 million. By Zelensky's calculation, that's not even 11 days of the war, a war which has now been raging for 869 days.
We're open to continuing to do more, and you've seen us and you saw me in opposition express very strongly my support for the President and also for Ukraine. He and I have spoken several times. We have a good relationship, a good affinity. He knows to ask for things if he needs things.
Attending a wider NATO meeting, the PM chalked up a second catch-up with the US President.
Prime Minister Luxon of New Zealand.
After the pair met for the first time at a White House dinner last night.
We had a couple of interactions last night which were lovely, and then today we had a pull aside with Secretary Blinken, the President and myself.
The Prime Minister posted this pic of him and Joe Biden on X, the President looking notably frail. Washington's been Luxon's greatest hobnob job yet, from world leaders galore to the NATO Secretary General.
Once again, welcome. I very much appreciate our partnership. Thank you.
And he finally got that delayed sit-down with Texas Senator and Trump backer Ted Cruz. Straight from the heart of the Trump campaign to the fire of Biden's, the Prime Minister's making a mad dash from here in Washington, D.C. to San Francisco, where he'll meet the California Governor Gavin Newsom. Newsom is a long-time Joe Biden ally, but also presidential hopeful. He tops almost all the lists of potential successors for the president, a role which is looking increasingly necessary by the day.
Well, Tova has just landed in San Francisco alongside the Prime Minister's entourage. Tova, will the Biden blunders impact the last leg of Christopher Luxon's US trip?
Yeah, Sam, it was always pretty interesting that he was going to be meeting with Gavin Newsom, that presidential hopeful, that top pick of successor for Joe Biden. But I think after those frankly appalling blunders from the president today, calling the Ukrainian President Vladimir Putin, calling his Vice President Kamala Harris Donald Trump, that role of successor is looking damn more necessary by the day.
Tova, thanks so much. Well, as he touched down in San Francisco this evening, there was some positive poll news for the Prime Minister. This month's Taxpayer Union Courier poll showed a boost for Luxon as preferred PM, up 9 points since June to 34.5%. Chris Hipkins dropped down 1.5 points to 18.7%. The National Party also had a jump, up 2.2 points to 37.6%, with its coalition partners sitting at 9.1 and 7.3% respectively. More bad news for Labour in the party polls, falling 3.5 points to just under 26%. Inland Revenue has begun a crackdown on tax debt, which has risen to nearly $7.4 billion. The department has warned it'll be increasing enforcement activity this year after it received a financial boost from the government to strengthen tax compliance. Zane Small has more.
Builders, you've been warned. The tax auditors are rolling in. Inland Revenue has started unannounced visits to construction sites to collect unpaid tax. The Construction Industry Council believes cash jobs may be the issue.
You probably wouldn't ask your GP or your lawyer or your accountant, well, you know, much for cash. But people feel no qualms about doing that with their builders. And so I think the public should take just a little bit of responsibility about that.
Construction is one of a number of industries targeted in a tax debt crackdown, which, as you can see here, has been rising steadily and now sits at nearly $7.4 billion.
The concern, as for me as Minister of Revenue, is not only that number, but actually the fact that it's increased by 50% since 2022.
In the latest budget, the government allocated $116 million over 4 years to support Inland Revenue to strengthen tax compliance. And the department expects a $700 million return on that investment. That's hundreds of millions of dollars that could be spent on delivering public services. Inland Revenue will also focus on organised crime, overdue student loan debt, tax issues with multinationals and corporate restructures, plus underreporting of income from crypto asset transactions.
90% of all taxpayers in New Zealand absolutely do the right thing, comply with their obligations. We're talking about less than 10% of taxpayers.
Inland Revenue acknowledged that COVID and the subsequent challenging economic conditions have been significant contributing factors, with some businesses suffering cash flow problems choosing to prioritise other payments over tax.
Certainly under the challenging circumstances, you might find quite a few building companies there.
Instalment arrangements to pay off tax debt over time can be arranged, but Inland Revenue is hammering in the message that tax avoidance won't be tolerated.
Auckland's iconic Ponsonby Road restaurant, SPQR, has gone into liquidation. It opened in 1992 and survived many challenging times for the hospitality sector, including the pandemic. It's just the latest well-established Auckland business to go under. Chapel Bar across the road recently announced it had also been placed into receivership. And upmarket department store Smith & Coe's is set to shut its doors next year. Rugby's popularity peaked a decade ago, according to What We're Buying, and that's balls. A New Zealand economist analysed Stats NZ data to see which sports we love, and it is footballs and basketballs flying off the shelves, with rugby balls going flat. Senior reporter Juliet Speedy explains.
It's a slam dunk for basketball, a strike for football. Meanwhile, rugby will need to keep trying. OK, enough of the corny sports puns, but an economist has looked at which balls are flying off the shelves.
The reason I looked at the import figures is because I want to understand how New Zealanders are playing sport.
And it wasn't our beloved national sport.
We can see from the data that the way that we play sport has changed. Rugby was very, very popular and gaining in popularity until 2011 and has been falling since then. Soccer has remained popular, and basketball has become really popular just in the last 3 or 4 years.
In fact, basketball sales have risen 808% in 3 decades. Basketball New Zealand has nearly 78,000 registered players across the country. This graph says it all. Over more than 20 years, rugby ball purchases peaked in 2011 when we hosted and won the Rugby World Cup, but have since halved. Soccer remains popular, and basketball has been on a steady rise.
A lot more people have been playing it in the last few years, which has been really good.
The reasons are varied. The American NBA has helped inspire kids, as have our own homegrown stars like Steven Adams, who's currently signed to the Houston Rockets.
I like basketball because it's fun, and also if you have a team, so if you score, your whole team scores.
Many kids are switching away from rugby.
Since I came to this country not too long ago, I've noticed a big increase of kids specifically wanting to transition into football.
But this economist says the data also shows another unfortunate pattern.
So New Zealand adults are less active than they should be. So about 2/3 of New Zealanders are overweight or obese. And part of that is we're not active enough and we're not playing enough sport.
Perhaps the TV sales data needs to be looked at too.
Well, sticking with balls for just a moment, there's a big game tomorrow night at Eden Park. Heather, how are the conditions looking?
Well, at this stage, the weather's going to play ball.
Fantastic, good to know.
I'll stop with the puns. Now, no rain, but very little wind tomorrow night. It's cold, so layer up, and black, of course. Auckland actually had their coldest morning so far of the year. Ardmore Airport down to -1, and yes, there was frost. Fog dominated to Manapōuri and Te Anau, all stuck in fog, no sun all day. But look how pretty Mount Sefton looks. A little moody with the early morning sun. Tekapo today, -6. Your full weather is up after more balls with sport.
Thank you so much, Heather. Well, just ahead, the Transport Minister announces a crackdown on what he calls out-of-control road cones. We'll show you a case study in the capital where car parks are being removed to make way for bike lanes. And relief in Rouen. French firefighters put out a blaze that had locals fearing a repeat of the catastrophic Notre Dame fire 5 years ago. Transport Minister Simeon Brown has announced a plan to tackle what he calls road cone fatigue. The government will require the Transport Agency to provide quarterly reports on how much is spent on temporary traffic management, with the expectation that expenditure on road cones reduces each year. Well, Zane Small joins us now live from central Auckland, where there's no shortage of cones. Zane, what else is in the plan?
Well, the government will be rolling out what it's describing as a risk-based approach to using road cones. So rather than prescribing how many should be used at a site, the number will be calculated based on the risk of the work being done at the site. And then, as you mentioned, the Transport Agency will be required to report quarterly on how much money is being spent. Now, that'll also apply to local roading authorities. Auckland Transport, for example, spends at least $145 million each year, and the Transport Minister told us today that is too much.
NZTA undertook an assessment of all the traffic management sites on the state highway network back in February, and they found of the 800 sites, 145 of them weren't necessary. So we know there's an excessive use of road cones, and we need to get that under control.
Now, Simeon Brown also said today that when he became Transport Minister, he was told by the Transport Agency that there was no record of how much money had been spent each year on road cones. So that's all set to change when the first quarterly report comes out in October.
Now, Mihi Zain, thank you so much for the update. Well, road cones are a particular problem in Wellington, where 30 kilometres of new bike lanes are being built this year. The City Council has removed 1,200 car parks to allow for the work, leaving behind a trail of orange cones and disgruntled shopkeepers. Erin Gawley has more.
Road cones here, road cones there. They are seemingly everywhere in the capital.
It's just a disaster unfolding.
Building owner Paul Robinson's adamant that ongoing construction of bike lanes is having a huge impact.
Pedestrian foot count down on Thorndon Quay is anywhere between 50% down, maybe 80% down. We have parts of Thorndon Quay that have been cordoned off with orange cones, and that affects the whole quay when orange cones go up because there just simply aren't enough car parks.
In nearby Karori, businesses worry they'll face a similar kind of chaos next year when the council removes hundreds of car parks for a cycleway.
It's too hard. It's too hard. I am absolutely for safer cycling, but at what cost?
The council is unrepentant, insisting new bike lanes are already getting people out of their cars and onto their bikes, and cycling advocates agree.
I've talked to so many people, especially women, but also high school students who now feel confident to use a bike to get around the city because of the protected cycleways that have gone in.
I think a lot of people have forgotten how much better our city can be if we can get around in ways that are more fun and cost effective.
The council says the city will grind to a halt unless people get on their bikes, and it seems Wellingtonians are divided.
Oh, I think it's a good idea. I think it's really just getting more public transport out there.
Terrible. I want them to stop it, and I want them to focus on the storm and the water and drains.
They have disrupted everyday life for many, many people.
I'm in favour of the cycleways. Yeah, I think it's important that people should have different options for travel.
It's just going to take a lot of road cones to get there.
In France, firefighters have stopped a blaze from tearing through a 12th century cathedral in the north, narrowly avoiding another disaster like Notre Dame. The fire broke out in the spire of the building, 120 metres high in the city of Rouen. Crews managed to put the flames out after a couple of hours and say it didn't spread rapidly because the area is mostly metal. The cathedral is considered a Gothic masterpiece, as it's been painted several times by 19th century impressionist Claude Monet. Legendary Hollywood actress Shelley Duval has died aged 75. She starred in a range of acclaimed films, but it was her unforgettable performance in Stephen King's The Shining that she'll be most remembered for. A bromance brought to the big screen. Later, our reporter catches up with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman ahead of their Marvel mashup release. And in sport, a new face in the Black Ferns team to take on Australia on Sunday. This is 3 News. If you've just joined us, here are our top stories so far tonight. President Biden has made it clear he won't be stepping aside in the race for the White House. The 81-year-old fielded questions from reporters during an unscripted press conference after a couple of major name gaffes. Inland Revenue has started making unannounced visits to work sites to collect unpaid tax. It's owed nearly $7.4 billion. And Transport Minister Simeon Brown has announced a plan to tackle what he calls road cone fatigue. Brown says the current approach is out of control and he expects expenditure on road cones to reduce each year. An Australian soldier and her husband have been arrested for allegedly sharing military information with Moscow. The couple, who were both born in Russia, had been living in Australia for more than a decade before becoming citizens several years ago. Police claim the woman secretly travelled back home while on leave from the Defence Force.
She instructed her husband, who remained in Australia, on how to log into her official work account from their Brisbane home. We allege her husband would access requested material and would send to his wife in Russia.
Well, shearing sheep, analysing the health of soil and manoeuvring heavy machinery. It is all in a day's work for this year's Young Farmer of the Year competitors. 7 contestants from around the country are being put through their rural paces in Hamilton this year, all fighting for the ultimate title. Laura Tupou reports.
It was a glorious morning in the mighty Waikato, perfect conditions to test the best at their farm skills.
I prepared well, so not much we can do now, just get into it.
And get into it they did, building a kennel in under 15 minutes, manoeuvring a shipping container on and off a truck in the same amount of time, no sweat.
Go
boy. But a head-to-head challenge with all 7 competitors required a bit of a briefing. The task, to bone an entire lamb in 30 minutes.
Tell you what, who likes a big fat chop?
They all seemed to take each challenge in their stride, all to gain the ultimate prize, Young Farmer of the Year. Last year's winner, the first female to win, was keeping a close eye.
It's been a real interesting watch. They're doing very, very well, but they're going to have to march this afternoon to make sure they get all of their jobs finished on time.
She says she's enjoyed connecting with all sorts of people while holding the role, all while continuing work on the farm, and also expanding the family.
Childbirth is no joke, that's for sure, but it has been good fun having the 2 boys at home, and what a lifestyle that we're lucky to have to incorporate the kids into the farm.
There were all different age groups showing off their skills today, including 16-year-old Leanne Redpath, who hails from a sheep and beef farm near Gisborne.
I've kind of always done a bit of work for Dad, like out on the farm, and I really enjoy it.
Enjoys it and is good at it, demonstrating how to deal with a very real scenario, the aftermath of a storm.
We had to straighten up a fence there, put in a stay, and then we had to plumb up a little water trough there, and our little kind of side quest bit was putting together a little wetter box. So yeah, pretty cool.
Farmers these days need to deal with many more aspects.
Running their businesses, financial skills, technology skills, understanding how to look at data and make really good decisions.
Because, she says, these are the farmers of tomorrow.
They're the ones that are going to help us to achieve all our goals for the sector in terms of exports and emissions control going into the future.
And fair to say, there's some prime stock in the making.
Great stuff and good luck to them. Well, we might be a few months away from spring, but flower lovers might need to prepare for a seasonal disappointment. We're facing a national shortage of one of the country's favourite blooms. And as Laura Frickbird found out, the issue all stems from one flower farm pulling out of the market.
In full bloom, they're an instantly recognisable flower, and one the Van Eden families specialised in growing for almost 60 years, supplying the New Zealand market with more variety than any other grower. Earlier this year, though, it all came to an end.
There was a bit of an institution down there, but the time had come. 2 of my brothers wanted to retire, and it was a good time just to close it all down and have a clean finish.
Since then, the former production manager, John Van Eden, says the tulip market has significantly changed, with the remaining farms opting to export larger quantities to more profitable countries, supplying our market with fewer options. A shift those who used to buy off the Van Edens have noticed.
They were one of the few growers that were growing a dedicated variety set list for the New Zealand market. So they had really interesting different varieties that not just your stock standard straight white tulip, they had all sorts of beautiful different options. So since they've closed, the range that we're able to buy has really decreased.
This garden centre in Wellington has also seen the knock-on effect, with fewer tulips on offer last season too. A challenge for shop manager Lisa Leask, who says the colourful flower is a customer favourite.
People just do love their tulips, and it's one of the ones where you get asked for, when are the tulips coming in? They have tended to be a little bit later the last couple of years than normal, so hopefully, yes, they won't be sort of late again this year, and we'll get a good proper tulips to choose from.
Conditions in New Zealand are particularly good for growers, but Van Eden says there's one part of the country in particular that's arguably the best place in the world for the flower to flourish.
Southland in particular, the climate and the rainfall and the temperatures are all just about perfect, and they grow very, very good tulips here.
Even if, at least for now, New Zealand no longer has its first pick of the bunch.
Well, Lucy is here now with sport and a new face in the Black Ferns.
Yes, Coach Alan Bunting has named what looks like a pretty strong squad for the test on Sunday against Australia. Hooker Atlanta Lolohea, she'll be on debut and what will likely be the team's last chance to experiment before arguably their biggest test of the year against England at Twickenham. We'll have more on Bunting's side to face Australia next. Plus, a sensational come-from-behind win sees the Wimbledon 7th seed through to a consecutive Grand Slam final. And Silver Ferns lose 2 key players for the upcoming international netball season.
Welcome to a new Swift world with Suzuki and 3News Sport.
The Black Ferns may have already retained the O'Reilly Cup, but they say they've still got plenty to prove this weekend. They face the Wallaroos across the Tasman on Sunday, but as much as this week is about reflecting on Laurie O'Reilly's legacy, it's equally about forward planning, with the Black Ferns looking to innovate and experiment as they build towards their biggest test of the year. Gordon Finlater has more.
The Black Ferns being put through their final paces in Brisbane ahead of Sunday's test. And with a new face. Hooker Atlanta Lalahia set to make her debut off the bench.
I'm feeling really excited. I'm getting jitters already and it's not even game day. So got a good vibe going and I'm happy to be here.
Going by recent results, it shouldn't be a tight contest. The Black Ferns thrashing the Wallaroos by 48 points in May. But with a September test against England at Twickenham looming, there's plenty of incentive.
With where we're heading over to Twickenham, we're trying a couple of new things this game, but a bit of tactical stuff and some bit of stuff around our kicking and communication on the field.
England are a whole different beast to Australia, though. They were 33-12 victors over the Black Ferns in November and will be an even tougher task at their home of rugby.
I think everybody wants to, play at Twickenham. That's going to be a crazy experience, and I think ever since that came out, everyone's kind of mindset. Yes, we've obviously got all these games and test matches ahead of us, but the bigger picture is we're building towards Twickenham.
And with the World Cup just over a year away, the pressure is building. The Black Ferns' first task, though, finishing the Laurie O'Reilly series in style.
This week's an important week for us. Laurie O'Reilly's godfather of women's rugby. He paved the way for us, so our players have got a lot to play for this weekend.
With spots up for grabs in Twickenham, the Wallaroos could be set for another walloping.
Captain Scott Barrett's hopeful the All Blacks' 30-year, 48-game unbeaten record at Eden Park can prove the difference as they chase a series sweep of England tomorrow night. After a couple of unconvincing years, the team's impeccable record at Eden Park is on the line after England pushed the All Blacks in the series opener in Dunedin.
There's certainly a lot of history here, and the players certainly love playing here. Whether we're in Forsyth Bar or Wellington or around any other stadiums, we love playing in front of our crowds. Eden Park's potentially just a little bit more special.
The All Blacks' last defeat at Eden Park was against France back in 1994. The Silver Ferns will have to do without 2 of their most senior players for the upcoming international season. Tapai Selby-Rickett and Jane Watson have made themselves unavailable due to their commitments away from the game, and it's forcing selectors to look elsewhere.
Can you believe it?
Tapai Selby-Rickett and Jane Watson have had their fair share of Silver Fern successes, but the pair have ruled themselves out of selection for the upcoming international season.
Preparing for life after netball, more time with family, more time at home.
Both Selby-Rickett and Watson have taken time away from the game in recent years, but neither will be drawn on a possible retirement from international netball altogether.
I'm not too sure at the moment. I'm just going to see how the rest of this year goes and how next year goes as well, and then I'll make a decision then.
The Tactics duo, who have over 120 test caps between them, will miss September's Tiny Jamison Trophy series against the England Roses and October's Constellation Cup against Australia.
Was it a bit of a shock?
Probably. You're always disappointed if you can't have the option of selecting experienced and, well-performed players. They're both playing very well this season, so...
Forcing selectors to look at bringing some younger players into the squad.
I wouldn't like to say weaker. I say it's different. How they play the game is gone from us, but there are others who have different skills and qualities that, hopefully they may well strengthen it.
But she's refusing to say who they might be.
I think I'll leave that one in the selection once we name the trialists.
That'll be at the conclusion of the ANZ Premiership Grand Final next month. Italian tennis star Jasmine Paolini has proven her surprise French Open final appearance last month was no fluke after advancing to another Grand Slam decider. Paolini fought back from a set down at Wimbledon this morning to beat the unseeded Donna Vekic 2-6, 6-4, 7-6 in 2 hours and 51 minutes, the tournament's longest ever women's semi-final.
Point by point, I was repeating to myself, try it point by point, because I was really in difficulty, but, there is no place better than here where to fight.
The 28-year-old had never won a match at Wimbledon until last week and will play Barbora Krejcikova in Sunday's final. Meantime, the all-Kiwi combo of Michael Venus and Erin Routliffe are through to the semi-finals of the mixed doubles. Finally tonight, a Taranaki dairy farmers swapping mud and gumboot for the bright lights of Budapest and the World Darts Masters. Kayla Hitch spends most of her time in Rauhotu, southwest of New Plymouth, but she'll play 2 major tournaments when she heads to Hungary, the World Masters and World Open. And she'll also try to qualify for the Lakeside World Champs in England.
I've always wanted to go overseas and have a go at darts to see where darts is at. My husband is probably my biggest supporter, and my kids and family are real proud.
Hitch is ranked 11th in New Zealand and 106 out of 977 players in the world at the Masters level. Good on her, Sam. I don't know about you, but my darts is absolutely rubbish.
Oh, mine's shocking. I'd probably end up injuring somebody. But good luck to Kayla and good luck to the All Blacks. I'm excited. I'm going to be there at Eden Park tomorrow.
Me too. I'll see you there.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much, Lucy. Shelley Duval, the star of cult horror classic The Shining, has died aged 75.
Here's Johnny.
Duval was one of the biggest actors of the 70s and early 80s, appearing in a string of movies including Popeye, Nashville and 3 Women. But it was her appearance in The Shining that remains her most memorable. A family spokesperson says she died in her sleep from complications related to diabetes. One of Hollywood's great bromances is about to hit the big screen in New Zealand. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman regularly troll each other on social media, but they've put that aside to star together for one of the most anticipated blockbusters of the year, a Marvel mashup. James Crute went to meet them.
You're not welcome here. Just give me one more drink and then I'll leave.
Hi, Peanut. I'm gonna need you to come with me right now.
So, upsy daisy, here we go.
Oh.
It's the most highly anticipated blockbuster of the year. The movie that teams 2 of the most popular characters in the MCU, Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool,
You were the X-Man.
and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine.
Trust me, kid, I'm no hero.
Despite being a much-desired combination, it had looked like it would never come to pass. However, now the 2 actors are currently on a world tour to promote this decade's Butch and Sundance, or Turner and Hooch. Jackman enjoying his time in Seoul and more than happy to reveal what drew him back into the fold.
I really felt I'd finished with that part of my life, even though we'd been sort of talking and flirting with the idea. But the day I rang Ryan and said, mate, I'm in, I really want to do this, I just knew my bones that this matchup and these 2 characters, plus me working with Ryan, what's not to love? Like, being older, being 55, doing it.
Jesus,
yeah,
what?
Sorry. I know on my CV it says I'm 33, but
Oh,
it's time you knew. I just think everything about this experience felt right.
But what would a Deadpool movie be without those trademark in-your-face fight scenes? Jackman and Reynolds spend so much time together, you have to ask whether they needed an intimacy coordinator more than a stunt one.
Do name drop intimacy coordinator in the movie.
Yeah. I insisted on one, but Ryan was insisting on none being there.
I want the set to feel as dangerous as humanly possible and litigious.
I know we're R-rated, but I said, Ryan, I don't think we can be nude in every scene. That was a weird pitch you had.
Yeah, I know. That was a big rewrite, and I shouldn't have done that. You know what? You don't rewrite anything on peyote.
Reynolds and friends have also once again helped compile a killer soundtrack with one particular tune likely to make you feel like it's 1989 all over again.
Like a Prayer was in my head for 6 years. The way it's used in the movie is almost like a prescriptive sort of set piece that I've had in my head since Deadpool 2, and I can't believe that I got to use it. And I always look at movies a little bit as like, at their core, particularly movies like these, are all about wish fulfillment. And this movie to me felt like a bit of a layer cake of wish fulfillment.
Whether Deadpool and Wolverine will be wish fulfillment for you, you'll have to wait until the evening of July 24, when Kiwi cinemas will be some of the first in the world to screen the movie.
I am Marvel Jesus.
Heather is here now with a look at the weather, and we're heading into the second week of the school holidays. How's it looking?
It's going to be hard to beat the week we've had, which has been amazing. The weekend starts okay, very similar to today with just showers out east. But on Sunday, the northeast flow strengthens as this very, very large trough over the Tasman approaches. By Monday, the rain and wind is more widespread, heaviest for the north of the North Island. Tuesday, the trough weakens and heads south, but it's still there Wednesday. Just showers left in the tank by then though. The full forecast is next. Kia ora, welcome back. What you had today is likely what you'll have tomorrow. The massive high is not budging, just chilling down to the southwest, the centre just out of view on your screen. Now, the two problematic low pressure systems will impact us. The one in the northeast is feeding showers over the east, caught up in the southeast flow, and the low over the Tasman just behind me is spinning out a front that arrives Sunday. That's a problem for later in the weekend, though. In the meantime, most in the south are set for another settled evening with frost and fog inland and easterlies. Little cloud in the east coast down to South Canterbury with a few showers for Kaikoura tonight and tomorrow. Could be some morning low cloud hovering out east. For the north, most clear tonight, frost and fog inland with sou'easters, but the east is cloudy and with showers quite persistent for Gisborne. Now tomorrow the showers ramp up in the east and develop across Northland, spreading over the Coromandel by tomorrow night. Few might make it to the Manawatu Gorge as well. But generally speaking, it's a really nice day out top. Another cold start, and Auckland and Hamilton be prepared for fog. Showers hit Whangarei and the Coromandel from the afternoon with sou'easters everywhere. Morning frost inland with sou'easterlies everywhere. Here there will be cloudy patches on and off with afternoon showers for Taupo and likely Whakatane. Plenty of showers out east for everyone. Gisborne, yours could be heavy with fresh sou'easters. Southerlies for Dannevirke and Masterton. They'll turn easterly in the morning. Taumaranui, you will be down to -3 tonight. Fog is expected, so the combination gives you freezing fog. Won't clear till midday. Few showers further south with sou'easters. Freezing fog for you too, Reefton. That won't clear till early afternoon. Everyone else here is looking fine. Morning frost, then returning in the evening. Occasional light rain for Blenheim and Kaikoura. Cloudy and light showers elsewhere. Sou'westers die out in the morning for Kaikoura with afternoon nor'easters for Canterbury. Freezing fog for Alexandra, frost morning and night for Queenstown and Invercargill. Winds are mostly light, but a northerly for Oamaru and a nor'easter for Dunedin. The morning starts with frost for those inland and with a few clouds around, especially for the Otago Peninsula. Feels like high of only 2. Mostly cloudy for you, Christchurch. A few light showers across the day as well. Winds are light first start, but a nor'easter picks up during the afternoon. Saturday around the capital has a few clouds and a few showers. It'll clear tomorrow night with a sou'easter. Feels like high of 8. A few showers tomorrow too for Hawke's Bay. Those showers might be heavy for the Wairoa district, but it will ease tomorrow night with a sou'easter. Another brief forecast for Tauranga, mainly fine, passing clouds, sou'easters, that's about it. Now I've lost count of the consecutive days of frost for you, Hamilton. Tomorrow, frost again and likely morning fog, sou'easters ease in the evening. Auckland, you will also have morning fog, light frost out west as well. The day is dry with showers tomorrow night north of Whangaparaoa and with a sou'easter. All right, over to Oz. More showers for Adelaide. They clear Sydney and Melbourne, though, with that trough finally heading offshore. Plenty of showers for the northern and also western islands in the Pacific. Back home, and the super calm and fine and clear and lovely weather, it's over. Scattered showers hit the north Sunday, turning to rain late and won't clear till Tuesday. That rain develops for the entire upper half of the island on Monday and in the east down to Wairarapa, lingering out east on Tuesday but easing in the west on Tuesday. With this weather, the nights are slightly warmer. Now the showers hit the South Island too in the north on Sunday with rain developing there on Monday. Not bad for the lower half. Just a few scattered falls for Southland and Otago on Tuesday. So big night tomorrow at Eden Park. Fortunately, conditions will not be like they were for the Super Rugby final. You will not need a rain jacket, but you will need layers. It'll be around 10 degrees at kick-off time.
Okay, warm socks.
Sure.
Good jacket.
Yep.
Okay.
And what
Puffer?
colour?
Maybe not.
What colour?
I'm going to wear black, I think. Okay, thank you
wise.
for that hot tip, Heather. I really appreciate it. Now, earlier tonight we asked you, is road cone use out of control in your area? And 82% of you are saying yes to that. 82% thinking there are too many road cones. Well, that is 3 News for tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. You can get in touch with us by emailing newsroom@stuff.co.nz or head to the Stuff website. I'm Samantha Hayes, Paul Mardier, and have a great weekend.